Hopefully
We're back.
We are. Hello. So now we're up to, what did we say? Ram and Lakshman and the sage. That's exactly what they're doing. They're doing this all the way to Sita City.
Okay.
Wobbling to Sita City.
All right, are we ready?
Yep. And we're up to Doha 211.
The Lord Sri Hari is such a great friend of the humble and compassionate beyond one's deserts. Adore him, O foolish Tulasi Dasa, giving up all deceit and willy wrangling. Sri Rama and Lakshmana accompanied the sage and reached the bank of the Ganga, the stream of which purifies the whole universe. The son of Gandhi.
There's no N.
Sorry, I was like,
Gandhi makes a good cricket. Gosh,
sorry.
He was old.
Hey, it's spelled very similar. There's no N. Sorry. The son of Gandhi.
Time traveling.
But I was like, Vishvamitra. I'm like, well, how did he get it? Okay, no. Vishvamitra. Yeah, that's what it is. Who's the other one? Vish.
The other one is the counselor to the king, to Ram's father.
Vasishta.
Vasishta.
They're so similar. Anyway. The son of Gandhi.
Not yet, sorry.
The son of Gandhi, Vishvamitra, related the whole legend, how the celestial stream had come down upon earth. The Lord then performed his ablutions with all the sages, and the Brahmanas received gifts of various kinds. Accompanied by a troop of hermits, the Lord gladly proceeded further and quickly drew near to the capital of the Videhas, Mithila. When Sri Rama held the beauty of the city, he as well as his younger brother were much delighted. There were many big and small wells, rivers and tanks with water as sweet as nectar and reached by flights of steps made of jewels. Bees drunk with honey made a sweet humming sound, and birds of various hues softly cooed. Lotuses of different colors opened their petals, while a cool, soft, and fragrant breeze ever delighted the soul. The city was adorned. Is this your bit? Is this a new thing?
Soon there'll be a new one. I've kind of changed their things to match up with what I think it says. But you keep going.
2:12. Oh, no, of course I don't know. Sorry. The city was adorned on all sides with flower gardens, orchards, and groves, the haunt of innumerable birds, full of blossom, fruits, and charming leaves. The beauty of the city surpassed description. Every inch of it was soul captivating. There was a lovely bazaar and gorgeous balconies made of jewels, fashioned as it were by the Creator with his own hands. Wealthy and good merchants, who vied with Kubera, the god of wealth, sat with all their various goods. Beautiful crossings of roads and charming streets were constantly sprinkled with scented waters. The houses of all were abodes of bliss and contained beautiful wall paintings portrayed as it were by Rati's lord, Cupid himself. The people of the city, both men and women, were good-looking, pious, saintly, virtuous, wise, and accomplished. The palace of King Janaka was most marvelous, the sight of whose splendor astounded even gods. Even the fortification wall filled the mind with wonder. It seemed as if it had enclosed within its limits the beauty of the whole universe. White palaces were screened here and there by bejeweled gold tapestries of various beautiful designs, while the exquisite palace where Sita lived was far too lovely for words to describe. The entrances to the place were all beautiful and protected with doors of diamond. They were always thronged with feudatory princes, dancers, panegyrists, and bards. There were spacious stables and stalls for elephants, which were crowded at all times with steeds, elephants, and chariots. The king had a number of brave ministers and generals. They all owned mansions that vied with the royal palace. In the outskirts of the city, by the side of lakes and rivers, numerous princes had encamped here and there. On seeing a fine mango grove, which was comfortable and agreeable in every way, the sage Kaushika Vishvamitra said, "O wise hero of Raghu's race, I like this orchard. Let us stay here." "Very well, my lord," answered the gracious lord, and encamped there with all the hermit's train. When the king of Mathila got the news that the great sage Vishvamitra had come, no,
Okay.
finish my paragraph. Oh, that was, yep, cooking it. Sorry. Yep.
So now we're going into
Sorry.
Janaka's ecstasy of love at the sight of Rama and Lakshmana. We're meeting the king. We're off to meet the king. Oh, okay. He took them with him, his faithful
Do you know when to
ministers.
stop?
Yes. He took with him his faithful ministers, a number of warriors, noble brahmanas, his family preceptor. Here we go. Shatananda.
Sorry.
No, it's just.
Sorry.
I just shut.
Just shut up. Just shut up.
And the chief of his kinsmen, and thus went forth rejoicing to meet the prince of sages. Placing his head on the sage's feet, the king made obeisance to him, while the lord of sages, Vishvamitra, gladly gave him his blessing. The king then respectively saluted the brahmanas and congratulated himself on his good fortune in being able to receive them. Inquiring again and again about his welfare, Vishvamitra led the king to a seat. At the very time arrived the two half-brothers who had gone to see the garden. One dark and the other fair, the two lads were yet tender of age. The delight of all eyes, they stole the heart of the whole world. All those present there rose when the Lord of Ragus came, and Vishvamitra seated him by his side. They were all delighted to see the two brothers. Tears rushed to their eyes, and the hair on their body bristled with joy. Beholding Sri Rama's lovely and charming form, King Videhi Janaka was Videhi, is it? Videhi
Devi.
Janaka. Is that the same thing?
Videhi Devi.
Is that the... Oh,
Videhi.
yeah.
Yeah, it would be.
Videhi.
I'm assuming it would be.
This is Videha,
Oh,
because this is the male. Videhi.
Oh, sorry, but it'd probably be
Sita.
It'd be pronounced the same though.
Yeah. Videhi is Sita.
Yes.
Like Janaka is the king, and Janaki is Sita.
Yes.
All right. Was particularly beside himself with joy. Footnote. There is a pun on the word Videhi in the original. The kings of Mithila.
I see it written. Where is it? Videha.
Videha.
Yeah.
Day, you reckon?
Yeah, it's always A.
Videha.
Yeah.
The kings of Mithila enjoyed the hereditary title of Videha because they ruled over the territory of Videha. King Janaka was also a man of wisdom and had therefore no feeling of self-identification with the body. At the sight of Sri Rama, however, he was completely out of his body and therefore justified his name, Videhi, in a special degree. Okay. Finding his heart overwhelmed with love, the king recovered himself by a recourse to reason, and bowing his head to the sage's feet, spoke the following pregnant words in a voice choked with emotion. Tell me, my lord, are these two pretty boys the ornament of a sage's family, or the bulwarks of some royal dynasty? That's not an English word I've used very often. Bulwark. You're bulwark. Or is it that Brahma, the Absolute, whom the Vedas describe in negative terms such as not that, neti, has appeared in a dual form? My mind, which is dispassion itself in its natural form, is enraptured at the sight, even as the kakora bird is transported with joy at the sight of the moon. Therefore, sir, I know it's chakora, but do not care. Therefore, sir, I earnestly inquire of you, tell me the truth, my lord, hide nothing from me. Deeply attached to them at the very sight, my mind has perforce renounced the joy of absorption into Brahma. The sage smilingly answered, You have spoken well, O king. Your words can never be untrue. Whatever living beings there are in this world, they all love these boys. Sri Rama smiled within himself on hearing these words. They are the sons of King Dasharatha. Dasharatha.
You know his name.
I know, but seeing the words and trying to say it gets me tongue-tied.
Okay.
The jewel of Raghu's race. The king has sent them. Who is he?
Dasharatha.
I'm kidding. You think I'm seriously about to explain it to me? I have been following along.
I haven't.
The king has sent them for my cause. These two noble brothers, Rama and Lakshmana, are the embodiments of beauty, virtue, and strength. The whole world knows that they conquered the demons in battle and protected my sacrifice from harm. When I behold your feet, O sage, added the king, I cannot tell with the great merit I have earned, what great merit I have earned in the past. These two brothers, one of whom is dark of hue and the other fair, are the delight of delight itself. Their guileless affection for each other is beyond description. It is so agreeable and so ravishing. Listen to me, my lord, continued King Videhi, rejoicing. I know. They have...
Do you want me to tell you?
Yep, go for it.
Videha.
Videha.
Yeah.
Videha. They have natural affinity for each other, like one existing between Brahma, the supreme spirit, and Jiva, the individual soul. The king gazed upon the Lord over and over again. The hair on his body stood on end, and his heart overflowed with joy. Extolling the sage and bowing his head at the latter's feet, the king escorted him to his capital and lodged the sage in a beautiful palace which was comfortable at all times. I hate those palaces that are sometimes uncomfortable. Then, after further homage and rendering all kinds of service to him, the king took leave of the sage and returned to his own palace. Okay, so now we're going to have a visit to the town by Rama and Lakshmana in 217.
Yep. Can I squeeze it?
Yeah, can you pick?
Yeah, that's awesome, thank you. Wait, I'll get closer to that microphone. 27. Having dined with the seers and rested a while, Lord Sri Rama, the jewel of Raghu's race, sat down by his brother's side. A quarter of the day still remained. Lakshmana felt in his heart a great longing to go and see Janaka's capital. He was, however, afraid of the Lord and stood in awe of the sage. Therefore, he did not openly declare it and smiled within himself. Sri Rama understood what was passing in his younger brother's mind, and his heart overflowed with a kindly feeling for his devotee. Taking leave of his preceptor to speak, he smilingly spoke with much diffidence in most polite terms. My lord Lakshmana longs to see the city, but out of fear and respect for you he does not make it known to you. If I have your permission, I will take him round the city and quickly bring him back. Hearing this, the chief of sages, Vishvamitra, replied in affectionate terms, It is no wonder, Rama, that you should respect good manners. You are the upholder of the moral code, my son, and bring joy to your servants out of love for them.
Go, blissful pair of brothers, and having seen the city, come back. Bless the eyes of all by showing them your charming countenance. Saluting the lotus feet of the sage, the two brothers, the delight of the eyes of the whole world, departed. Beholding the exquisite beauty of the two brothers, troops of boys followed them, their eyes and mind being enamored of it. Clad in yellow garments, they had a quiver fastened at their back, with a cloth of the same colour wrapped around their waists. Their hands were adorned with graceful bow and arrow, respectively. The beautiful pair, one of whom was, guess, dark, and the other fair, had streaks of red or white sandalwood paste painted on their body so as to match their complexion. With a neck as well built as the lion's and long arms, they had on their bosom an exquisite string of pearls obtained from the forehead of elephants. I don't know. Forehead. Elephants have pearls? Apparently they do. Their lovely eyes resembled the red lotus, and the moon-like face relieved one of the threefold agony. Their ears were adorned with pendants of gold, which stole, as it were, the heart of those who looked on them. They cast a bewitching glance They cast a bewitching glance and had a pair of arched and shapely eyebrows. The lines of the sectarian mark on the forehead looked as if beauty had been sealed there. Their beautiful head was covered with a charming rectangular cap and dark curly locks. The two brothers were lovely from head to foot. The beauty of every limb was as it should be. When the citizens received the news that the two princes had come to see the town, they all left their businesses and ran out of their homes, as if paupers were out to grab a valuable property. Beholding the natural grace of two brothers, they were glad at heart and attained the consummation of their eyes. Sticking to the air holes of their houses, young ladies lovingly scanned Sri Rama's beauty. I think they meant to say windows, but we can call it the house's air holes if we want to. They fondly spoke to one another in the following words: "O friend, he has surpassed in beauty millions of cupids. Nowhere among gods, men, demons, nagas, or sages do we hear of such beauty. God Vishnu is endowed with 4 arms. Brahma has 4 faces, while Shiva, the slayer of Tripura, has a frightful garb and 5 faces. O friend, there is no other god who could stand comparison with this beauty." The 2 lads, one dark and the other fair, are yet of tender age and are repositories of beauty and abodes of bliss. Millions and hundreds of millions of cupids are worth sacrificing to each one of their limbs. Tell me, friend, what embodied being is there that would not be charmed by such a beauty? One of them lovingly said in gentle tones, "Hear, my dear, what I have been told. These 2 lads, a beautiful pair of cygnets as they were, are sons of King Dasharatha. They are the protective of Kaushika's sacrifice and have slain demons in the field of battle. He who has a swarthy form and has charming lotus-like eyes and who has quelled the pride of Maricha and Subahu, wielding a bow and shaft in hands, is Kausalya's son, Rama by name, the very fountain of bliss. The fair youth in gallant attire who is closely following Sri Rama, a bow and arrow in hand, is the latter's younger brother and is named Lakshmana. Sumitra, friend, is his mother, you must know." Having accomplished the object of the Brahmana, Vishvamitra, and redeeming the sage's wife, Ahalya, on the way, the 2 brothers have come here to witness the bow sacrifice. All the ladies were delighted to hear this. Of course you can have a 10. I'm going from there.
Yep. Beholding Sri Rama's beauty.
I'm going to call them air holes from now on. The home's air holes.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I just opened the air hole a little bit over there. It was a bit stuffy in here.
Oh, feel the air coming through the hole.
The air hole. Boy. Beholding Sri Rama's beauty, someone said, "Here is a bridegroom worthy of Princess Janaki. If the king does but see him, friend, I am sure he will abandon his vow and insist upon their marriage." Said another, "The king has come to know them, and has received them as well as the sage with all honor. But the king, my dear, refuses to give up his vow and, as fate would have it, persists on his folly." Yet another said, "If Providence is good, and, as we are told, gives every man his due, then Janaki is sure to have him as her bridegroom. About this, my dear, there can be no doubt. If such a union is brought about by providence, everyone will have realized one's object. My impatient friend is augmented by the thought. My impatience, friend, is augmented by the thought that this alliance will impel him to visit this place again. Otherwise, my dear, it is out of question for us, I tell you, to see him. At such an event can take place only when we have a rich stock of merits accumulated in previous existences. Someone else said, "Friend, you have spoken well. This union will be conducive to the best interests of all." Still another said, "Shankara's bow is hard to bend, while this swarthy lad is of delicate frame. Everything, my dear, what?
Swathi.
Swathi.
Not Swati.
I don't know.
It's the. Are you doing the Sanskrit reading again?
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
It's Swathi.
Swathi.
Is that right?
Swathi.
Swathi. I've never heard that word before. While his swarthy lad is of delicate frame. Everything, my dear, is out of place. Hearing this, another said in a soft voice, "Friend, with regard to this lad, I have heard some people say that, though small in appearance, he wields a great power. Touched by the dust of his lotus feet, Ahalya, who had perpetrated a great sin, attained salvation. He will, therefore, surely break Shiva's bow. One could never commit the mistake of giving up this faith. The same Creator who fashioned Sita with great skill has preordained for her this dark-complexioned bridegroom." Everyone was pleased to hear the words of this lady and softly exclaimed, "Amen." In their gladness of heart, troops of fair-faced, bright-eyed dames rained flowers on the princesses. Wherever the two brothers went, there was supreme joy. The two brothers reached the eastern quarter of the city, where the arena for the bow sacrifice had been got ready. In the midst of a beautiful and spacious paved area, a spotless altar was richly adorned. On all the four sides of this altar were erected, elevated, and broad seats of gold to be occupied by the princes. Not far behind and surrounding them on all sides shone another circular tier of raised seats, which was of somewhat greater height and beautiful in every way, and where the people of the city might come and take their seat. Close to these were constructed spacious and beautiful galleries of glistening white, painted in diverse colours, whence ladies might view the spectacle seated in their appropriate places according to their family rank. The children of the town politely showed the lord of the preparations, speaking to him in gentle words. Thus, finding an occasion for touching their charming limbs, all the children were overwhelmed with love, experienced a thrill and over their body, and their heart overflowed with joy on seeing the two brothers again and again. Finding all the children under the spell of affection, Sri Rama lovingly extolled the places shown by them. All of them would call the two brothers wherever they pleased, and the two brothers went to them out of loving kindness. Sri Rama showed to his younger brother the arrangements that had been made there, speaking to him in soft, sweet, agreeable words. He, in obedience to whose fiat Maya brings forth multitudes of universes in the quarter of a second, the same gracious Lord, conquered by devotion, looks with amazement on the arena for the bow sacrifice. Having seen the whole show, the two brothers returned to their guru, but the thought of their being late disturbed their mind. The Lord, whose sublimity inspires terror into terror itself, thus manifests the glory of devotion. With many kind and courteous phrases, they took leave of the youngsters, much against the latter's will. Meekly and most submissively, with a mingled feeling of awe and love, the two brothers bowed their head at the lotus feet of the preceptor Vishvamitra and sat down with his permission. At the approach of night, the sage Vishvamitra gave the word, and all performed their evening devotions. And while the sage recited old legends and narratives, 2 watches of the beautiful night passed. The chief of the sages, Vishvamitra, then retired to his bed, and the 2 brothers began to rub his feet. The couple whose lotus feet are sought by men of dispassion, muttering various sacred formulae and practicing different kinds of yoga, means union with God, lovingly rubbed the lotus-like feet of their guru. Conquered, as it were, by his love, when the sage asked him again and again, the chief of Raghu's race went to bed only then. Lakshmana pressed the Lord's feet to his bosom and caressed them with reverence and love, deriving supreme joy from this service. It was only when the Lord repeatedly said, "Retire now, my brother," that he laid himself down, cherishing his brother's lotus feet in his heart.
Okay, now we're up to Rama visits Janaka's garden and Janaka, sorry.
Yep.
And Rama and Sita catch sight of each other. Okay. Towards the close of the night, at the sound of cock crow, got up Lakshmana. The Lord of the universe, the all-wise Sri Rama, also woke before his preceptor. Having performed all the customary acts of purification, they went and finished their ablutions, and having gone through their daily routine of devotions, they bowed before the sage. When the time came, the 2 brothers took leave of their preceptor and went to gather flowers. Having gone out, they saw the lovely royal garden, enamored of whose beauty the vernal season had taken its permanent abode there. It was planted with charming trees of various kinds and overhung with beautiful creepers of different colours. Rich in fresh leaf, fruit, and flower, they put to shame every celestial trees by their wealth. The feathered choir of the chatukas, cuckoos, parrots, and kakoras warbled, and peacocks beautifully danced. In the centre of the garden, a lovely lake shone bright, with flights of steps made of many-coloured gems. Its limpid water contained lotuses of various colours, and was vocal with the cooing of aquatic birds and the humming of bees. Both the Lord and his brother were delighted to behold the garden with its lake. Most lovely must have been the garden which delighted even Sri Rama, the delighter of all. After looking all about and with the consent of the gardeners, the two brothers began in high glee to gather leaves and flowers. On that very occasion, Sita too arrived there, having been sent by her mother to worship Girija. She was accompanied by her girl companions, who were all lovely and intelligent. They sang melodies in an enchanting voice. Close to the lake stood a temple sacred to Girija, which was beautiful beyond description and captivated the mind of those who looked at it. Having taken a dip into the lake with her companions, Sita went with her glad heart to Girija's temple. She offered worship with great devotion and begged of the goddess a handsome match worthy of her. One of her companions had strayed away from her in order to have a look at the garden. She chanced to behold the two brothers and returned to Sita overwhelmed with love. When her companions saw her condition, her body thrilling all over and her eyes full of tears, they all asked her in gentle tones, "Tell us what gladdens your heart." "Two princes have come to see the garden, both of tender age and charming in every way, one dark of hue and the other fair. How shall I describe them? For speech is sightless, while the eyes are mute." All the clever maidens were delighted to hear this. Perceiving the intense longing in Sita's bosom, one of them said, "They must be two princes, my dear, who, I was told, arrived yesterday with the sage Vishvamitra, and who have captivated the heart of men and women of the city by casting their spell of beauty. All are talking of their loveliness here, there, and everywhere. We must see them, for they are worth seeing." The words of this damsel highly pleased Sita. Her eyes were restless for the sight of the princes. With the kind friend to lead the way, she followed. No one knew that hers was an old love. Recollecting Narada's words, she was filled with innocent love, and with anxious eyes she gazed all around like a startled fawn. Hearing the tinkling of bangles, the small bells tied around the waist and the ankles, Sri Rama thought within himself, and then said to Lakshmana, "It seems as if Cupid has sounded his kettle drum with intent to conquer the universe." So saying, he looked once again in the same direction whence the sound came, and lo, his eyes feasted themselves on Sita's countenance, even as the kakora bird gazes on the moon. His charming eyes became motionless as if Nimi, the god of winking, okay, so Nimi, footnote, Nimi was a forebearer of King Janaka. On his death,
Hang on, Janaka.
Janaka.
Yeah, because it sounds like you're saying a bit of both. Janaka.
Janaka.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, yeah.
On his death, his spirit obtained a seat on the eyelids of human beings and has ever since remained there. The poet here figuratively attributes the motionlessness of Sri Rama's eyelids to the sudden departure therefrom of Nimi, who was I think we just said that. Anyway, who was the forebearer of Janaka, is described as loath to witness this exchange of pure love between Rama and Sita. Had left the eyelids out of shyness. Back to the text. Sri Rama was filled with rapture to behold Sita's beauty. He admired it in his heart, but utterance failed him. He felt as if the Creator had put his whole creative skill in visible form and demonstrated it into the world at large. "She lends charm to charm itself," he said to himself, "and looks as if a flame of light is burning in a house of beauty. The similes already employed by the poets are all stale and hackneyed. To whom shall I liken the daughter of Videha? Videha? I'm sure I've heard it said Videha. But anyway.
I don't know. Well, I'm just going off what I've heard, so I might be wrong.
Videha. Thus describing to himself Sita's loveliness and reflecting on his own condition, the Lord innocently spoke to his younger brother in terms appropriate to the occasion. Glad it was appropriate. She's a sexy name. Brother, she is no other than the daughter of King Janaka, for whom the bow sacrifice is being arranged. She has been escorted by her girl companions to worship goddess Gauri, and is moving about in the garden, diffusing light all about her. My heart, which is naturally pure, is agitated by the sight of her transcendent beauty. The reason of all this is known to God alone, but I tell you, brother, my right limbs are throbbing, which is an index of coming good fortune. I'm glad that's the only thing that's throbbing. It is a
Emma, just keep reading. God's sake.
It is a natural trait with the race of Ragu that they never set their heart on evil courses. As for myself, I am fully confident of my mind, which has never sought another's wife, even in a dream. Rare in this world are those noble men who never turn their back on the foe in battle, nor give their heart to or cast an amorous glance on another's wife, and from who no beggars meets with a rebuff. While Sri Rama was talking to his younger brother in this strain, his mind, which was enamored of Sita's beauty, was all the time drinking in the loveliness of her countenance, like a bee sucking the nectar from a lotus. Sita looked timidly all around. Her mind was at a loss as to where the princes had gone. Wherever the fawn-eyed princesses cast her glance, a continuous stream of white lotuses seemed to reign there. Her companions then pointed out to her the two lovely brothers, the one dark, the one fair of hue, standing behind a fence of creepers. Beholding the beauty of the two princes, her eyes were filled with greed. They rejoiced as if they had discovered their long-lost treasure. The eyes became motionless at the sight of Sri Rama's loveliness, the eyelids to forget to fall. Due to excess of love, her body consciousness began to fail. It looked as if a chakora bird were gazing at the autumnal moon. Receiving Sri Rama into the heart through the passage of the eyes, she cleverly shut him up there by closing the doors of her eyelids. When her girl companions found Sita overpowered with love, they were too much abashed to utter a word. At that very moment, the two brothers emerged from a bower. It looked as if the pair of spotless moons had shone forth, tearing the veil of a cloud. The two gallant heroes were there with a very perfection of beauty. Their bodies resembled in hue a blue and yellow lotus respectively. Charming peacock feathers adorned their head, which had bunches of flower buds stuck here and there. A sectarian mark and beads of perspiration glistened on their brow, while graceful pendants shed their lustre on their eyes. With arched eyebrows and curly locks, eyes red as a lotus bud, and a lovely chin, nose and cheeks, their gracious smiles was soul enthralling. The beauty of their countenance was more than I can describe. It would put to shame a myriad cupids. They had a string of jewels on their breast. Their lovely neck resembled a conch shell in its spiral shape. All their mighty arms vied with the trunk of a young elephant, who was the very incarnation of Cupid. With a cup of leaves full of flowers in his left hand, the dark-hued prince, my dear, was most charming. Beholding the ornament of the solar race, who had a slender waist like that of a lion and was clad in yellow, and who was the very embodiment of beauty and amiability, Sita's companions forgot their very existence. Recovering herself, one of her clever companions grasped Sita by the hand and said to her, "Meditate on Gauri afterwards. Why not behold the princes just now? Sita then bashfully opened her eyes and saw the 2 lions of Raghu's race opposite herself. Surveying Sri Rama's beauty from head to foot in the reverse order, so foot to head. Footnote, girls in India are coy by their very nature and would not have the audacity to look straight into the eyes of a suitor. Sita, who is the very embodiment of feminine virtues and the ideal of Indian womanhood, is therefore depicted here as beginning her survey of Sri Rama's beauty from his feet and gradually passing her eyes to his head. It is unidiametic in English to speak of one scanning a person from foot to head. Hence, the order had been reversed in the rendering. It was, however, necessary to point out this radical difference between Western and Indian cultures, and hence words in reverse order have been added to keep the sense of the original intact, while taking care not to allow the English idiom to suffer. Thanks, translators. And back to the text. And remembering her father's vow, she felt much perturbed. When Sita's companions saw her thus overcome with love, they all cried in alarm, "We are late already. Let us come again in this very hour tomorrow." So saying, one of them smiled within herself. Sita blushed at this pregnant remark. She got afraid of her mother, for she felt she was already late. Recovering herself with considerable effort, she received Sri Rama into her heart and, conscious of her dependence on her sire, returned home. Okay. 234. Doha 234. Worship of goddess Parvati by Sita. Her receiving a blessing from the goddess and a dialogue between Ram and Lakshman. Oh. That's what's happening now.
Under pretense of looking at a deer, bird, or tree, she turned again and again, and each time she gazed on the beauteous hero of Raghu's race, her love waxed not a little. Drooping at the thought of the unyielding bow of Shiva, she proceeded with the image of the swarthy form in her heart. When the Lord perceived that Janaka's daughter, a fountain of bliss, affection, grace, and goodness, was going, he sketched her on the sheet of his heart with a soft ink of supreme love. Sita then sought Bhavani's temple, and adoring her feet, prayed to her with joined palms. All glory to you, O daughter of the mountain king. Glory to you who gaze on the countenance of the great Lord Shiva as a chakora bird on the moon.
Come on.
the glory to you, O mother. I don't know.
Chakora!
I don't know about that one. Glory to you, O mother of the elephant-headed Ganesha and the six-faced Kartikeya, and mother of the universe with limbs shining as lightning. You have no beginning, middle, or end. Your infinite glory is a mystery even to the Vedas. You are responsible for the birth, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. You enchant the whole universe and carry on your sports independently of others. Of all good women who adore their husband as God, Mother, you rank foremost. Your immeasurable greatness is more than 1,000 Sharadas and Sheshas could tell. The fourfold rewards of life, viz., religious merit, worldly riches, sensuous enjoyment, and liberation are easily attainable through your service. O bestower of boons, beloved of Shiva, the slayer of Tripura, all who adore your lotus feet, O Shining One, attain happiness, be they gods, men, or sages. You know well my heart's longing, since you ever dwell in the town of every heart. That is why I have refrained from openly declaring it. With these words, Videha's daughter clasped the feet of the image. Bhavani was overcome by her meekness and devotion. The wreath on the image dropped, and the idol smiled. Sita reverently placed the divine gift on her head. Gauri's heart was filled with delight while she spoke. Her Sita, my infallible blessing, your heart's desire shall be accomplished. Narada's words are ever faultless and true. The suitor on whom your heart is set shall indeed be yours. The dark-complexioned and naturally handsome suitor of whom you are enamored shall indeed be yours. The gracious and omniscient Lord is aware of your fidelity and love. Sita and all her companions were delighted at heart to hear this blessing from Gauri's lips. Worshipping goddess Bhavani again and again, Sita, says Tulasidasa, returned to her abode, rejoicing in her heart. Finding Gauri favorably disposed towards her, Sita was more glad of heart than words can tell. Her left limbs began to throb, indicating her good fortune. I'm just going to pause and say that. Was it Ram's right limbs that were throbbing?
Yeah, and her
and
left.
Sita's left limbs that were throbbing. I'll keep reading before you make
in like yoga, you have
the
feminine channel, which is on the left, and you have the masculine yang channel, which is on the right.
Inwardly praising Sita's beauty, the two brothers returned to their guru, Vishwamitra. Sri Rama related everything to Kaushika, for he was innocent of heart and free from all guile. Having got the flowers, the sage performed his devotion and then blessed the two brothers, saying, "May your heart's desire be accomplished." Rama and Lakshmana were glad to hear the benediction. After finishing his meals, the great and illumined hermit Vishwamitra began to recite old legends. The day was thus spent, and obtaining the Guru's permission, the two brothers proceeded to say their evening prayers. In the meantime, the charming moon rose in the eastern horizon. Perceiving that her orb resembled Sita's face, Sri Rama felt happy. The Lord then reasoned with himself, "The Queen of Night bears no resemblance to Sita. Born of the ocean with its salt water, with poison for her brother, dim and obscure by the day, and with a dark spot on her orb, how can the poor and wretched moon be matched with Sita's countenance?" Footnote: The moon is one of the 14 jewels, treasures of the world, that were churned out of the ocean by the joint efforts of the gods and demons at the dawn of creation. It is to this Puranika legend that the Lord refers to above. The very first product of this churning was poison, which was swallowed by Lord Shiva. It is in this sense that the moon is spoken of as having poison for a brother. Back to the text. Again, the moon waxes and wanes. She is the curse of lovesick damsels and is devoured by Rahu when she crosses the latter's orbit. She causes anguish to the Chakravaka, the ruddy goose, and withers the lotus. O moon, there are numerous faults in you. One would incur the blame of having done a highly improper act by comparing you with the countenance of Videha's daughter, thus finding in the moon a pretext for extolling the beauty of Sita's countenance, and perceiving that the night had far advanced, Sri Rama returned to his Guru, and bowing at the sage's lotus feet and receiving his permission, he retired to rest. At the close of night, the Lord of Raghus woke, and looking towards his brother, he began to speak thus: "Lo, brother, the day has dawned to the delight of the lotus. The Chakravaka and the whole world, joining both of his palms." Lakshmana gently spoke the following words indicative of the Lord's glory. The day having dawned, the lily has faded, and the brightness of the stars is dimmed. Just as the news of your arrival, all the princes assembled here have grown faint. Though twinkling like stars, all the princes put together are unable to lift the thick darkness in the form of the bow. And just as lotuses and bees and the Chakravaka and various other birds rejoice over the termination of night, even so, my Lord, all your devotees will be glad when the bow is broken. Lo, the sun is up and the darkness has automatically disappeared. The stars have vanished out of sight, and light flashes upon the world, under pretense of its rising. O Lord of Raghus, the sun has demonstrated to all the princes the glory of my Lord, yourself. It is in order to reveal the might of your arms that the process of breaking the bow has been set into operation. The Lord smiled at these remarks of his brother. He who is pure by his very nature then performed the daily acts of purification and bathed, and after finishing the daily routine of prayer, etc., called on his guru, and the two brothers bowed their graceful heads at his lotus feet. Meanwhile, King Janaka summoned his preceptor Shatananda and sent him at once to the sage Kaushika. Shatananda communicated to Vishvamitra Janaka's humble submission, and Vishwamitra gladly sent for the two brothers.
Okay. Because the next section is Ram's entry into the pavilion erected for the bow sacrifice along with Lakshmana. So now we get to the winning of Sita.
The breaking of Shiva's bow.
Yeah, so it's a very good spot to stop for now.
Yep.
Pick up with all the excitement of the contest when we get back.
Who knows what will happen? Probably everyone.
I think Ram's gonna. I think he's got a pretty good chance. I'm gonna bet on Ram.
That's why I asked the question. So I was being silly. All right.
Really?
Catch you later.